Well, as Norm Abrams would say, it's time for some assembly. I've got my dry joint fitted here. It really came out nice. The spline's got about a 1/16 inch on each side. Nice tight fit. And I've got my clamps set. So next thing to do is to take this apart and put some glue on it. Well, it's been several days later. I've glued all these up in pairs, so I'm ready to start putting the bigger panels together. I have my clamps assembled. These panels are really solid. I really like that spline method. I'm going to be using that for a table build later on this summer. Got my plates on here to keep it flat. The next thing, finish the footboard panel and the headboard panel. Glued up. It's flat. It's exciting. The joints are tight. This is a solid piece of wood. I'll give this an hour, hour and a half. Go do some gardening, and then we'll glue up the headboard, which is twice as tall. So that'll be interesting. It's been an hour and a half. Worked in the garden a bit. Did 30 minutes of rowing on my rowing machine. So now we're ready to get this off. Start applying some glue to them. I decided after that first attempt it was going to be easier to pour the glue in that groove than to use the brush for the whole thing. Full length 6 inches of quarter-eighth inch plastic there, so you can, or quarter, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is, 32 millimeter or something. So you can get a scope of just how big this project is. This one was a bugger bear to get started, and I'm just going to work my way up. The bottom panel has a slight tilt in it. It's not going to affect the major thing, but I'll just walk this right up and give it a work. Once I get that spline started, fighting gluing time right now. This is, I really like this Belsey clamp. It's nice and heavy duty. The smaller bar clamps are, there it goes. They will deflect. All right. See, it's got some flexion in it. Let me get a nice big 3/4 inch clamp on here. Well, I've been working on these pieces of wood here. These are out of a piano. One of my daughters bought a house, and the previous occupants left a piano there. Well, she didn't want it, and it wasn't in good shape. She had to work, so she sent my wife and I over there to get rid of it. Well, this thing was heavy, and we decided to dismantle it. It's still heavy, but in doing so, I got these pieces of wood out of it. I'm not sure what kind of lumber it is, but it's very hard. I cut a piece Christmas time and made a ice cream scoop handle out of it, and was really pleased with it. So this bed calls for turned legs, and the pine I have for the upper headboard, I don't think is going to be strong enough. So my attempt is to try to get these pieces cleaned up and use them for the post on the footboard side. It's a little chilly out here today, but this thing was smoking up the basement. These blades are expensive, and this one still has a lot of life in it, but it's starting to smoke, and I just brought this thing outside to my outside work area. Well, there were no mechanical fasteners on that side. A couple of holes here that may have been where screws were, but I did take a lot of screws out of this thing. So I've run this a couple times over the joiner. It's looking really good. This side still has a lot of veneer attached to it, and I've taken several passes and I've got it down a little bit, but it's going to take at least 30 or 40 more passes across this old joiner. I haven't done this side yet. Waiting to get this side. It appears that it's only tapered on one side, so that's a plus. Tapered on two sides, but we'll deal with that once I get this cleaned up. Well, it's been about 15 minutes. I've taken several passes, and yes, I know there's no guard on this old joiner, and yes, I know there's a lot of blade exposed, but that part of the blade is a little bit sharper than the other because I normally have it closed down as much as possible, but it felt safe. I think it was okay. So I didn't try to take the taper out of this. The taper's still there. I've got a little splinter here I need to deal with. But I don't, the taper here, I don't think this is going to be big enough, wide enough, massive enough to be in perspective of the king size bed. I think the other end, which is probably closer to, the other end is closer to 3 1/4 by 3 1/8. That's more like it. I want about probably a 3 by 3. So the other end is just going to be too small. I'm going to have to glue two pieces together. This is 2 7/8. I'm not sorry, 2 5/8 by 3 1/8. So I'm going to have to glue a piece on here and then mill it down so that I've got a square piece. I've got 3 of these legs, so I think I can split one of them and glue it onto each side of the other 2, and I'll be okay there. But the other 2 boards looked just like this one before I started cleaning it up. And I've been working on this for about 3 hours. So I've got probably another day, day and a half of working on those other 2 with the glue up then, and then milling them back down to a 3 by 3. I can't mill these on the planer because of the taper. I could have done 2 sides, but that taper would not allow me to do the 4th side, 3rd and 4th side. So that's where we're at, and we'll keep plugging away at it until it's done. Well, having not found any nails in that other board, I went ahead and cut this one on my bandsaw. Unfortunately, this little booger here was hidden in the glue. But better a bandsaw blade, because I can sharpen it, than a $100 table saw blade. So I'll get that out and get that on the joiner. Well, I was able to get those cleaned up pretty well. Nice clean glue joint here. And someday, hopefully, that'll be square. It's going to be a very narrow piece on the outside. It's 3 1/4 on one end and 2 3/4 on the other, but I'm not going to need the whole thing. Unfortunately, the piece on the left has about a 3/4 inch hole going through it that I'm going to have to plug up.